There's a moment every Sigma male faces when the confusion fades, the silence deepens, and a brutal truth hits him. He was never the one chasing approval, validation, or attention. It was them. The ones who underestimated him, doubted him, and tried to control him, who were quietly chasing his energy all along. That's the moment everything shifts. He stops running after people, and the world starts running after him. See, Sigma males don't chase status or acceptance. They move differently, with purpose, with focus, with solitude as their armor. While others waste time trying to be noticed, the Sigma is busy becoming something worth noticing. His mystery, his independence, his calm. All the things they once ignored become the exact things they can't live without. But here's what makes it powerful. He never changes to win anyone back. He simply evolves until he outgrows the need for external validation. His value becomes self-sustained. And when people finally realize what they lost, it's already too late. Because he's not looking back anymore. If you've ever felt like you were the quiet one, the misunderstood one, the one people only respect after they lose you, this video is your mirror. Before we start, make sure to subscribe to Ultra Wise, where we uncover the psychology and silent power behind the Sigma mindset. And here's the question for you. Have you ever realized your silence made people chase you harder than your words ever did? Comment, "I stopped chasing," below if you've reached that level of peace and self-worth. He realizes he was never chasing people. He was chasing understanding. For most of his life, the Sigma male thought he was chasing connection, people, friendships, love, belonging. But one day he realizes the truth. He was never chasing them. He was chasing understanding. He wasn't looking for approval or attention. He was searching for someone who saw him beyond the surface. Someone who didn't mistake his silence for arrogance or his distance for disinterest. That moment of awareness changes everything, because when you understand your own motives, you stop letting others define your worth. He starts replaying the memories, the times he stayed too long in conversations that drained him or tolerated relationships that felt one-sided. He sees how often he tried to explain himself to people who never really listened, thinking if he just worded it differently, they'd finally get him. But now he knows, people who are determined to misunderstand you will never see your truth, no matter how clearly you speak it. So he stops. He stops explaining, stops chasing, stops proving. He learns that peace is found in being understood by himself. And something incredible happens when he shifts from seeking to knowing. His energy changes. It becomes still, focused, and calm. He no longer moves to be seen. He moves with quiet clarity. The same people who once ignored him begin to notice. They sense the difference, but can't quite name it. His silence starts to speak louder than their noise ever could. The power they once thought they had over his emotions disappears, because now he's no longer reacting, he's observing. Understanding replaces the need for validation. Solitude stops feeling lonely and starts feeling sacred. He realizes the only person he ever needed to be understood by was himself. And once he masters that, everyone else becomes optional. He's not angry or bitter. He's awakened. He doesn't close himself off from the world. He just no longer opens himself up to chaos disguised as connection. That's the Sigma's quiet evolution. When he stops chasing people and starts chasing understanding, he becomes untouchable. Not because he's cold, but because he's finally whole. And that's the moment the world starts chasing him. His silence starts revealing who actually values his presence. The Sigma male doesn't test people with words. He tests them with silence. When he goes quiet, he's not disappearing, he's observing. His silence isn't punishment, it's revelation. It's in that stillness that the truth begins to surface. The ones who only valued his attention start to fade away, while those who genuinely valued his presence begin to notice his absence. Silence becomes his filter, separating those who cared for his energy from those who only needed his availability. In a world addicted to noise, his quiet feels uncomfortable to the shallow. People who once demanded his time start to question themselves when he no longer responds. They replay their conversations, wondering if they said something wrong, unaware that their actions had already spoken louder than any apology could. The Sigma doesn't need to confront anyone. His silence does it for him. Because when someone truly values you, they don't need your constant communication to remember your worth. They feel it, even in your absence. And while others mistake his quiet for detachment, he's actually listening, not to words, but to patterns. He pays attention to who checks in without needing something, who respects his space instead of guilt-tripping him for it, who shows consistency without performance. Silence reveals it all. It shows who's genuine, who's loyal, and who was only there for convenience. Over time, he begins to love the peace that comes with saying nothing. He learns that silence is not a lack of response. It's a form of strength. The world starts to feel louder, more desperate, while he grows more composed, more intentional. The people who remain in his life after the silence, they're not just friends or connections. They're his circle of truth. They're the ones who see value in his presence even when he's not speaking. And that's the paradox of the Sigma male. The less he says, the more he's understood by those who truly matter. His silence doesn't push the right people away, it pulls them closer. Because those who genuinely value him don't fear his quiet, they respect it. And that's how he learns. Silence doesn't just reveal the truth, it protects it. He sees that people were drawn to his calm confidence, not his attention. The Sigma male eventually realizes something profound. People were never addicted to his attention. They were drawn to his calm confidence, the quiet energy that made them feel stable in his presence. His strength wasn't in how much he gave, but in how little he needed. He didn't chase validation or approval, and that made people curious. They wanted to understand how he stayed grounded in a world that constantly craves noise and recognition. What they didn't realize was that his peace came from detachment, not disinterest. When he walks into a room, he doesn't demand attention, it naturally finds him. His presence shifts the atmosphere, not through charisma or dominance, but through control. He carries himself like someone who doesn't need to prove anything, and that unsettles the insecure. People who once overlooked him now crave the calm they can't replicate. They feel safe around him, but can't explain why. His stillness exposes their chaos. His composure highlights their uncertainty. He begins to notice the pattern. The louder personalities seek him out when life feels unstable. The emotionally reactive lean on him when their world falls apart. And while he once mistook their closeness for genuine connection, he now understands. They were drawn to his energy, not his effort. His confidence was magnetic because it didn't beg to be seen. It existed effortlessly, the product of self-awareness, discipline, and boundaries. That realization changes everything. He stops giving his calm to those who drain it. He becomes selective with his time, his presence, his energy. Because confidence without peace is arrogance, but peace with confidence is power. And his power doesn't come from dominance, it comes from self-control. He doesn't talk about what he's doing next, he simply does it. He doesn't announce his standards, he enforces them silently. The world starts to respond differently. People respect what they can't easily access. They sense his energy is rare, grounded, clear, unattached. And in that awareness, he reclaims his truth. It was never his attention they admired. It was his calm. the kind that can't be faked, bought, or borrowed. And once he learns to protect that calm, he becomes untouchable. Detachment makes him magnetic. What he no longer seeks begins to seek him. The Sigma male's true transformation begins when he stops chasing, when he finally detaches not out of bitterness, but clarity. Something shifts around him. He no longer needs to prove his worth, fix broken dynamics, or earn validation from anyone. That energy, the one that used to chase approval, turns inward. And the moment he stops seeking, the world starts seeking him. It's almost ironic. The more he lets go, the more everything he once wanted naturally finds its way back to him. People start to feel his absence like gravity. The same ones who ignored him when he cared suddenly crave his attention when he doesn't. They can't explain it, but his detachment feels different. It's not cold, it's centered. There's a mystery in his stillness, a quiet strength that makes others wonder what changed. They sense he's no longer emotionally available, no longer easy to reach, and that very distance draws them in. His silence becomes a mirror. People project their own insecurities onto it, realizing what they lost when he stopped trying. He begins to understand that detachment isn't about isolation, it's about energy alignment. When he stopped chasing, he stopped vibrating from lack. He started moving from abundance, from knowing he already has everything he needs within himself. That's what makes him magnetic. His calm presence becomes rare in a world desperate for attention. His peace becomes powerful because it's not dependent on external chaos. He no longer texts first just to keep connections alive. He no longer explains his silence or feels guilty for choosing solitude. Instead, he invests that energy into growth, into his mind, his purpose, his mission. And as he evolves, everything starts to orbit around him naturally. Opportunities, genuine people, success. They're drawn to his grounded energy because it's real. That's the paradox of detachment. The moment you stop needing something, it starts needing you. The Sigma male doesn't chase love, validation, or status anymore. He's become the kind of man who attracts them by existing on his own frequency. And that's his quiet superpower. He no longer runs toward the world, because now the world runs toward him. His focus on growth exposes how others stayed stagnant. The Sigma male's evolution is silent, but it's impossible not to notice. While others waste time in circles of gossip, distraction, and comfort, he's somewhere building himself, his craft, his mind. His growth isn't loud, but it's consistent, and that's what makes it powerful. He doesn't announce what he's doing or broadcast his transformation. He simply disappears, refines, and returns unrecognizable. And when he does, people feel the difference. His silence now carries weight, his presence, authority. It's not arrogance, it's evidence. Growth changes how he sees everything. Conversations that once excited him now feel meaningless. People who once felt close now seem stuck in the same patterns, talking about change but never living it. He notices how comfort disguised itself as loyalty, how some stayed in the same emotional, mental, or spiritual place for years, proud of survival but afraid of evolution. And while he respects their choices, he refuses to shrink himself just to make them comfortable again. This is where the distance begins. It's not that he outgrows people on purpose. It's that his mindset can no longer breathe in the same space as it used to. His focus on growth naturally creates separation, because when you evolve, you challenge what others settle for. People begin to sense that he's different, sharper, quieter, more intentional. Some admire it, others resent it, because his progress reminds them of their own stagnation. His discipline exposes their excuses. His vision exposes their comfort. He doesn't judge, but he no longer stays where energy doesn't move. His time is sacred now, his peace non-negotiable. Growth became his lifestyle, not his phase. And that's when the tables turn. People who once underestimated him now want his advice, his presence, his guidance. But he's learned that not everyone deserves access to his evolved version. That's the hidden truth of the Sigma male's rise. He doesn't brag about becoming better. He just becomes better, quietly, relentlessly, and the world adjusts around him. Those who stayed stagnant either fade into the background or start chasing his pace. Because when a man commits to growth, he doesn't just change his life. He exposes every environment that refused to change with him. The energy he once gave freely becomes his most desired currency. At some point, the Sigma male realizes that his energy was never ordinary. It was his most valuable resource. The calm presence, the emotional stability, the quiet strength he offered without limits. People didn't just like it, they fed on it. He used to give it freely, thinking it was kindness. But over time, he noticed a painful truth. The more he poured into others, the more they expected, and the less they appreciated. So he changed the game. He stopped giving endlessly, and that's when the world started paying attention. The same energy that once went unnoticed now feels scarce. His absence becomes louder than his presence ever was. People start realizing that his consistency was rare, his understanding irreplaceable. He's no longer the one who listens for hours while others vent but never ask how he's doing. He's no longer the one who over-explains his intentions just to maintain peace. His focus shifts from pleasing to preserving, from giving to guarding. His energy becomes something that must be earned, not assumed. And that shift transforms everything around him. The more he values his energy, the more others do too. His boundaries turn into silent filters, removing those who took without balance and attracting those who give without expectation. He learns that energy exchange should feel mutual, not draining. And because he's learned to master his emotional output, he becomes magnetic, not because he's cold, but because he's rare. Now people crave his attention, his time, his validation, but he doesn't offer it easily. He understands its power. A simple message, a few calm words, or his presence alone now hold weight, because he gives them sparingly. His energy became currency, the kind that can't be bought, only respected. This evolution isn't about ego, it's about value. He finally sees that his energy shapes everything, his relationships, his peace, his destiny. The same people who once underestimated it now chase it. But he doesn't chase back, because when a Sigma male learns to protect his energy, he becomes the rarest man in the room. And everyone knows that what's rare will always be desired. His absence teaches others the difference between being wanted and being needed. When the Sigma male walks away, he doesn't slam doors or leave dramatic endings. He simply fades. His silence lingers longer than words ever could, and it's in that silence that people begin to understand what they lost. They start to feel the void, not just of his presence, but of his energy. His absence becomes a mirror, showing them the truth they ignored when he was still around. They realize he wasn't just someone they wanted around, he was someone they needed because his stability grounded them, his calm made chaos manageable, and his insight gave clarity to confusion. At first, they mistake his quiet withdrawal for indifference. But as days turn into weeks, they start to notice something unsettling. Life doesn't feel the same without his steady presence. The emotional balance he brought was invisible until it was gone. His absence reveals what his presence used to heal. The jokes don't feel as genuine, the noise feels emptier, and the people they replaced him with don't bring the same peace. It's then they realize he wasn't just another person, he was the anchor. For the Sigma male, this realization isn't about revenge or validation. It's simply the natural consequence of his growth. He doesn't leave to teach lessons, yet his absence becomes the most powerful one of all. Because when someone's energy elevates your world quietly, losing it feels like gravity disappearing. People who once took him for granted start to understand that needing someone's calm, wisdom, or presence isn't the same as wanting it. Need creates dependency, want creates choice. And he only stays where he's chosen, not required. He's learned to detach from being everyone's emotional safety net. His value no longer depends on being needed. It's defined by how authentically he can live without overextending. His peace becomes his new priority, not proving loyalty to those who only noticed his worth when he stops showing up. So when he walks away, he leaves behind more than silence, he leaves awareness. Those who truly saw him will evolve from it. Those who didn't will keep chasing replacements they'll never find. Because a Sigma male's absence doesn't just hurt, it educates. By the time they realize his worth, he's already moved beyond their reach. The Sigma male never leaves to prove a point. He leaves because he's done explaining one. When people finally wake up to his value, it's already too late. They replay conversations, messages, and moments, trying to find the exact point where he started pulling away, but there isn't one. His withdrawal wasn't sudden. It was silent, stretched over time, disguised as patience. He gave hints through his distance, his silence, his subtle shift in energy. They just didn't listen. And now, the version of him they took for granted no longer exists. When they realize what they've lost, they try to reach him, but they're no longer speaking the same emotional language. He's evolved beyond the dynamic that once defined them. The things that once hurt him no longer have power. The situations that once drained him no longer get access. His focus has shifted from trying to be understood to mastering peace. They can't guilt him, can't charm him, can't manipulate him, because he's finally learned that value doesn't need to announce itself. It simply removes itself when unappreciated. His absence now has a gravity they can't escape. Every time they meet someone new, they subconsciously compare them to him, his calm, his depth, his quiet strength. No one matches it, because no one else gave without expecting, listened without judgment, or stayed grounded when everyone else lost control. But he doesn't return. Not because he's cold, but because he's free. His growth took him to places they can't follow, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. For the Sigma male, moving beyond someone's reach isn't about pride, it's about alignment. Once he evolves, he no longer fits in old environments or relationships that fed on his empathy but gave little in return. He's not punishing anyone, he's just honoring himself. And that's the final twist. The same people who once dismissed his silence now crave it. The same ones who thought he'd always be there are left chasing a ghost of who he used to be. By the time they realize his worth, he's already gone, not hiding, but ascending. And in that distance, he becomes what he always was meant to be. Untouchable, at peace, and far beyond the reach of those who only saw his value in hindsight. When a Sigma male walks away, it's never out of hate. It's out of understanding. He doesn't leave to make a statement. He leaves because he's evolved past the need to explain. His silence isn't revenge, it's peace. And by the time the world realizes how rare his presence was, he's already too far gone, walking his own path with quiet power and unshakable focus. If you've ever been the one who outgrew the noise, who chose solitude over shallow validation, then you already understand his transformation. You know what it means to stop chasing and start attracting. Because when you reach that level of emotional clarity, you no longer need to prove your worth. You embody it. Tap Evolved in the comments if you've felt this shift within yourself. If you've learned that silence, peace, and purpose are stronger than any reaction. And if this message spoke to you, make sure to subscribe to Ultrawise, where we decode the mindset of the Sigma male and the quiet strength that the world never sees coming.